The first time Zane looked at me differently, I almost dropped a 40-pound dumbbell on my foot. Not because he said anything. He didn't. He just stood there across the gym, staring at me in a way I'd never seen before, and for some reason, that was enough to make me forget what exercise I was supposed to be doing. I'd known Zane for almost 8 months at that point. We weren't best friends. We weren't roommates. We weren't even co-workers. We were gym partners. That's how it started anyway. We'd met because I was terrible at bench pressing alone, and Zane happened to be looking for someone who could spot him without disappearing halfway through a set. We started talking between workouts, then started arriving at roughly the same time, and eventually it became an unspoken routine. 3 days a week, same gym, same corner, same terrible playlist coming through the speakers. My name is Emil. I'm 26, and before Zane, I'd never really had a consistent gym partner. Honestly, I didn't even think I'd become friends with him. Zane was the kind of guy who seemed to know everyone. Tall, athletic, dark hair that was always slightly messy no matter how carefully he'd fixed it, and a confidence that made him completely comfortable walking into a room full of strangers. I was basically the opposite. I wasn't shy exactly, but I liked keeping to myself. I worked remotely, spent most evenings at home, and wasn't the type to start conversations with random people. Zane somehow got around that. He'd walk up while I was warming up and say things like, "You skipping legs again, Emil?" I'd tell him to mind his own business. He'd laugh. Then we'd train. It was easy. That was the thing I liked most about him. There wasn't any pressure. We joked around, complained about sore muscles, argued about which exercises were useless, and occasionally grabbed food afterward. I knew about his work. He knew about my family. He knew I was gay. That last part came up casually one night when we were sitting in his car outside a sandwich place after training. He'd been talking about a girl he'd gone on a date with, and I made some comment about how complicated dating was. Zane looked over. "You dating someone?" "No." "You looking?" I shrugged. "Sometimes." He laughed. "Guys or girls?" I looked at him for half a second. "Guys." I expected the usual reaction. A joke, a weird pause, maybe an awkward change of subject. Instead, Zane just nodded. "Got it." Then he went back to eating his fries. That was it. No big deal. And honestly, I appreciated that. After that, nothing changed. At least, not for a while. Then, about a month later, Zane started acting weird. It was subtle at first. He started waiting for me outside the gym. Normally, if I was late, he'd just start his workout. Suddenly, he'd be standing by the entrance, arms crossed, pretending to be annoyed. "You're 5 minutes late." "I know." "I almost went in without you." "You survived." "Barely." I'd laugh and he'd smile, but sometimes that smile would stay on his face a little too long. Other things changed too. He started remembering tiny details I'd mentioned months earlier. My favorite protein shake, the fact that I hated crowded gyms, the exact days I usually worked from home. Once, I mentioned that I'd been sleeping badly. 2 days later, he showed up with coffee. "Don't make this weird," he said, handing it to me. I stared at the cup. "You bought me coffee? You said you were tired. You remembered that?" He shrugged. "Apparently." I smiled. "Thanks." He looked away almost immediately. And that was when I first wondered if something was going on. Not between us. I wasn't that confident. But something was definitely happening with him. He became more nervous around me. Zane. Nervous. It sounded ridiculous. This was a guy who could walk into the gym, load 3 plates onto a bar, and act like he owned the place. But around me, sometimes he'd start saying something, stop halfway through, and suddenly become very interested in adjusting the weights. Other times, I'd catch him staring. Not at my muscles, not at my workout, at me. And whenever I noticed, he'd look away. I tried not to read into it. I really did. Because there was one important fact I kept reminding myself of. Zane had always dated women. As far as I knew, he was straight, and I wasn't interested in being the guy who convinced himself that basic friendliness meant attraction. I'd been through that before. It never ended well. So I ignored it. Until one Thursday evening. We were doing chest that day, and the gym was unusually busy. I'd finished my set and was sitting on the bench, catching my breath while Zane loaded the bar. "Ready?" he asked. "Yeah." He got into position. I stood behind him to spot. Normally, this was completely routine, but that night, something felt different. "Go," I said. He started pressing. 1, 2, 3. I watched the bar. 4, 5. Then he suddenly stopped. "Emil." "Yeah?" "Come closer." I frowned. "What?" "Closer." I stepped forward. He finished the rep and racked the bar. Then he sat up and looked at me. We were only a few inches apart. "You weren't paying attention." "I was literally spotting you." "I know." "Then what are you talking about?" He stared at me. For a second, I thought he was going to say something. Instead, he shook his head. "Nothing." I laughed. "You're acting weird." His expression changed. "Am I?" "Yeah." "How?" I hesitated. I don't know, different lately." He looked down at the floor, then back at me. "Maybe I am." That answer caught me completely off guard. I waited for him to explain. He didn't. Instead, he stood up, grabbed his water bottle, and walked toward the lockers. I followed him with my eyes. And that's when I noticed something else. He wasn't just avoiding the conversation. He looked nervous. Actually, nervous. A few minutes later, we left the gym together. The parking lot was nearly empty. Usually we'd say goodbye at our cars. That night, Zane didn't move toward his. He just stood beside me under one of the parking lot lights. "Emil." "Yeah?" "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." He shoved his hands into his pockets. "Do you ever notice when someone's acting different around you?" I gave him a confused look. "That's a strangely specific question." "I know." "Why?" He laughed quietly, but there was no humor in it. "Forget it." "Zane." He looked at me. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then he took a breath. "I've been trying to figure something out." "What?" His eyes stayed on mine. "Whether I've been imagining things." My heart started beating faster. "Imagining what?" Zane opened his mouth, then stopped. A car turned into the parking lot behind us, headlights washing over the pavement. He stepped back. "Nothing." "That's twice you've said that." "I know." "You're terrible at this." He smiled faintly. "Maybe." Then he walked toward his car. I stood there watching him leave, and for the first time since we'd met, I had the uncomfortable feeling that maybe I wasn't imagining anything after all. Because whatever had changed in Zane, I had a feeling it had something to do with me. The next morning, I told myself I was overthinking everything. That was the first thing I thought when I woke up. The second was Zane, which was annoying. I'd spent most of the night replaying our conversation in the parking lot, trying to figure out what he'd been getting at. I've been trying to figure something out. Whether I've been imagining things. What did that even mean? And why had he looked at me like that when he'd said it? I stared at my ceiling for a few minutes before finally getting out of bed. I had work that morning, but I couldn't focus. Every time my phone lit up, I checked it. Nothing. By noon, I had convinced myself Zane probably regretted saying anything. Maybe he'd been tired. Maybe he'd had something else on his mind. Maybe I was turning a completely normal conversation into something it wasn't. Then my phone buzzed. Zane. Gym tonight? I stared at the message. That was it. No explanation. No mention of last night. Just 4 words. I typed back. Emil. Obviously. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, Zane. Good. See you at 7. I put my phone down, then picked it back up. I hated how much that tiny exchange affected me. At exactly 7, I walked into the gym. Zane was already there. He was leaning against one of the machines, scrolling through his phone. When he saw me, his expression immediately changed. Not dramatically. Just enough. He smiled. Hey. Hey. You sleep okay? Yeah. Liar. I laughed. Why? You look exhausted. Thanks. You're welcome. For a few minutes, everything felt normal. Almost too normal. We warmed up, talked about work, complained about the gym being crowded. But I noticed something. Zane wasn't avoiding me anymore. If anything, he seemed more comfortable. He stood closer. He joked more. And every time we talked, he'd hold eye contact just a little longer than usual. Eventually, we got to squats. I loaded the bar while Zane watched. That's too much, he said. I've got it. You said that last week? And I got it. You almost folded in half. I didn't. You absolutely did. I laughed and stepped under the bar. Zane moved behind me. Ready? Yeah. I started my first rep. He counted quietly. 1, 2, 3. His voice was close. I finished the set and stepped forward. When I turned around, we were almost face to face. Neither of us moved. Zane looked at me. Then his eyes dropped briefly. I don't know what he was looking at. My shirt, my chest, maybe nothing. But when his eyes came back to mine, his face was slightly red. You good? I asked. Yeah. You sure? Yeah. He looked away. I smiled. You're doing it again. Doing what? Acting weird. He shook his head. Maybe you're making me nervous. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He didn't laugh. That stopped me. Wait. He looked at me. What? Did you just say I'm making you nervous? He scratched the back of his neck. Forget it. No. Emil. I'm serious. He sighed. Then he glanced around the gym. Not here. My stomach tightened. Okay. He nodded toward the exit. Come on. We finished our workout early. Neither of us said much afterward. When we got outside, Zane didn't go toward his car. Instead, he walked around to the side of the building where there were a couple of benches. He sat down. I sat beside him. For several seconds, we just listened to the traffic. Finally, he spoke. I don't know how to say this. Just say it. It's not that easy. Why? He rubbed his palms together. Because I don't know what it means. I looked at him. What means? He took a slow breath. The way I've been feeling lately. My heart started pounding. About me? He didn't answer immediately. That was answer enough. I looked away. I suddenly didn't know what to do with my hands. Zane. I know. No, you don't. He turned toward me. I've noticed you looking at me. My face went hot. What? At the gym. I don't? You do? He smiled slightly. And I don't hate it. That shut me up. I stared at him. He looked almost embarrassed now. I've been thinking about it a lot, he admitted. About what? About you. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it. Zane looked down. I've always liked being around you. That's not new. Okay? But lately, he stopped. Lately what? He rubbed his jaw. I've started noticing things. Like you. I gave a nervous laugh. That's not very specific. I know. He looked at me again. Your smile. I froze. The way you get quiet when you're concentrating. The stupid face you make when you're trying to lift something heavier than you should. I laughed despite myself. That's your confession? No. He smiled. Then his expression became serious again. I've started wondering what it would be like if we weren't just gym partners. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to hear more. Another part was terrified. Because this wasn't some fantasy anymore. This was Zane, sitting beside me, actually telling me that he'd been thinking about me. I swallowed. What do you mean by that? He looked straight at me. I don't know yet. That answer was somehow more honest than anything else he could have said. He wasn't pretending to have everything figured out. He wasn't suddenly claiming he'd been secretly in love with me for years. He was confused. And honestly, so was I. I nodded slowly. Okay. Okay? Yeah. He looked surprised. You're not freaked out? I didn't say that. He laughed. Fair. We sat quietly again. Then Zane nudged my shoulder. So? Are you still coming Thursday? I smiled. Obviously. Good. He stood up. I followed. We walked toward our cars. Just before we separated, Zane stopped. Emil? Yeah? He hesitated, then smiled. Never mind. I rolled my eyes. You're seriously terrible at this. I know. He got into his car. I watched him drive away. And for the first time, I wasn't wondering whether I'd imagined the change in him. I knew I hadn't. The problem was, I had no idea where it was going to take us. For the next few days, Zane and I didn't talk about what happened outside the gym. And somehow, that made everything more noticeable. Before, I could tell myself his behavior was random. Now I couldn't. Every little thing had a meaning I hadn't noticed before. On Monday, he sent me a message asking if I'd eaten. On Tuesday, he remembered that I had a stressful meeting at work. On Wednesday, he showed up 15 minutes early because, according to him, I figured you'd be here. I laughed when he said it. You've never cared what time I get here before. I care now. He said it so casually that I didn't know how to respond. So I pretended to be busy adjusting the settings on the treadmill. You're weird. Yeah, he smiled. And you're still here. I looked at him. Unfortunately. Sure. He walked away, laughing. The strange thing was, I liked it. I liked this version of Zane. Maybe too much. The problem was that I still didn't know what he wanted. He'd admitted he was thinking about me, but he hadn't actually said what he wanted to happen, and I didn't want to push him. If he was questioning something about himself, the last thing I wanted was to make him feel cornered, so I let him set the pace. That worked until Friday. We were finishing our workout when Zane suddenly said, "You busy Saturday?" I looked up from my water bottle. Depends. On? What you're asking. He grinned. I'm asking if you want to get food. We get food after the gym all the time. Not after the gym. I frowned. What then? Just food. That's suspiciously vague. He laughed. I'm taking you somewhere. Taking me? Yeah. Why? He stared at me for a second. Because I want to spend time with you. There was something about the way he said it that made my chest tighten. I tried to keep my voice casual. Okay. Okay? Yeah. He smiled. 7? 7. Don't wear gym clothes. I laughed. Why? Because we're not going to the gym. You're making this sound like a date. The second the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Zane went completely quiet. I looked at him. He looked at me. Neither of us said anything. Finally, he gave me a small smile. Maybe it is. Then he walked away. I stood there staring after him. My brain basically stopped working. Saturday took forever to arrive. I changed shirts 3 times. Then I got annoyed with myself for changing shirts 3 times. It was just dinner. Except it wasn't. At 7, Zane pulled up outside my apartment. I walked out and got into the passenger seat. He looked at me. Wow. What? Nothing. You said wow. I know. I laughed. You look good too. He smiled and started driving. We didn't go anywhere fancy. That actually made me feel better. He took me to a small restaurant on the other side of town, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and handwritten specials on a chalkboard. I'd never been there before. How'd you find this? My sister likes it. You have a sister? He looked offended. You know I have a sister. I forgot. Unbelievable. We laughed. For the first 20 minutes, it felt completely normal. We talked about work, the gym, his sister, my terrible cooking. Then the conversation gradually became more personal. He asked me about my first relationship. I told him. Then I asked about his. He told me about a girl he dated for almost 2 years. Did you love her? He nodded. Yeah. Do you still? He thought about it. No. I nodded. There was a pause. Then he looked at me. Do you think people can be wrong about themselves? The question caught me off guard. All the time. Even about who they're attracted to? I carefully put my glass down. Yeah. He looked relieved by my answer. Why? Because people change. He nodded. That's what I'm starting to realize. I didn't say anything. He looked down at his plate. I spent a lot of time thinking I knew exactly who I was. And now? Now I'm not so sure. My heart started beating faster. Does that scare you? A little. He looked at me. But not as much as pretending nothing's happening. That sentence stayed with me. After dinner, we walked around downtown. It was cold, so we stopped at a coffee shop. We sat near the window with 2 cups between us. For a while, we just watched people passing outside. Then Zane said something I'll probably never forget. Can I tell you something without you making fun of me? Depends. He smiled. I'm serious. Okay. He took a breath. When I first met you, I didn't think anything of it. Good to know. I'm getting there. I smiled. He continued. You were just Emil, the quiet guy who always complained about leg day. I still complain about leg day. I know. He laughed softly. But somewhere along the way, you became the person I looked for when I walked into the gym. I didn't move. If you weren't there, I'd wonder where you were. He looked nervous again. And when you'd leave early, I'd feel disappointed. I swallowed. Zane. I'm not finished. He smiled nervously. I started wanting to tell you things first. Good things, bad things, stupid things. He looked down at his coffee. And then I started getting jealous. My eyebrows lifted. Jealous? Yeah. Of who? Anyone who made you laugh. I stared at him. He shook his head. I know how ridiculous that sounds. It doesn't? It does to me. He looked genuinely embarrassed. Then he finally met my eyes. I don't know exactly what this is yet, Emil. I nodded. But I know I don't want to keep pretending you're just my gym partner. The words hit me harder than I expected. I felt a smile forming. Good. He blinked. Good? Yeah. That's all you have to say? I laughed. I've been waiting for you to figure that out for weeks. He stared at me. Then he laughed. Wait. What? You knew? Not for sure. But you suspected? Pretty strongly. He shook his head. You are unbelievable. So are you. We sat there smiling at each other like idiots. Nothing dramatic happened. No huge confession. No perfect movie moment. Just two people finally admitting that something between them had changed. And somehow, that felt better. When he drove me home, neither of us wanted the night to end. We sat in his car outside my building with the engine off. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was comfortable. Zane looked at me. Emil. Yeah? Can I ask you something? I smiled. You've been asking me a lot of questions lately. I know. He hesitated. Would you want to do this again? I knew exactly what he meant. Yeah. His smile was immediate. Good. He reached for the door handle, then stopped. Actually, he looked at me. There's something else. What? He took a breath. I've been acting different around you because I'm trying to figure out whether I like you. I smiled. And he looked directly into my eyes. I think I already know. My heart skipped. Before I could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His expression changed. What? He looked at the screen again, then back at me. It's my ex. I didn't know what to say. Zane locked his phone and put it face down. Don't worry about it. But something in his expression told me this wasn't going to be that simple. The next morning, I woke up thinking about one thing. Zane's ex. I hated that I was thinking about it, mostly because I knew I had no right to be jealous. Zane and I weren't together. We hadn't even kissed. We'd had dinner, talked about our feelings, and admitted there was something between us. That was it. Still, seeing his expression when her name appeared on his phone had bothered me more than I wanted to admit. I tried to ignore it. I really did. I made breakfast, answered emails, and spent most of the morning working. Around 11, my phone buzzed. Zane. You awake? I smiled. Emil. Unfortunately. A few seconds later, Zane. Can I come over? I stared at the message. Emil. Everything okay? He didn't answer immediately. Then, Zane. Yeah, just want to talk. That made me nervous. 20 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. Zane stood outside, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans, hands buried in his pockets. Hey. Hey. He stepped inside. I noticed immediately that he wasn't his usual confident self. He looked tired. What's going on? He sighed. About last night. I nodded. The ex? Yeah. He sat on the couch. I took the chair across from him. She wants to get back together. I felt something drop in my stomach. Oh. That's not what I wanted to tell you. I looked at him. Then what? He rubbed his hands together. She asked me if there's someone else. I didn't say anything. And I realized. He paused. I thought about you. My heart started beating faster. What did you tell her? That there wasn't anyone. I looked down. He noticed. But Emil, that's not because I don't want there to be. I looked back at him. Then why didn't you tell her about me? He gave a small, frustrated laugh. Because I don't know what we are. That was fair. I couldn't argue with it. He leaned back. I've spent the last few weeks trying to understand myself, and every time I think I've got an answer, I find another question. What kind of questions? He looked at me. Whether this is just curiosity. My chest tightened. And whether I'm actually falling for you. I didn't know what to say, so I said the first honest thing that came to mind. Those aren't the same thing. I know. Which one do you think it is? He stared at the floor. I don't know. There was something vulnerable about hearing him say that. For the first time, I understood that this wasn't some confident guy playing with my feelings. Zane was genuinely confused, and maybe a little scared. I moved from the chair to the couch, leaving some space between us. You don't have to figure everything out today. He looked at me. You're not angry? At you? Yeah. No. Why? Because you haven't done anything wrong. He smiled faintly. You always make things sound simple. They aren't simple. I know. He looked toward me. But you're making them easier. We sat quietly for a moment. Then Zane said, There's something else. I laughed softly. Of course there is. He smiled. I talked to my sister. About me? Yeah. My eyebrows lifted. What did she say? She asked if I was finally going to stop being an idiot. I laughed. That's supportive. She's brutally honest. What did you tell her? That I think I like you. The smile disappeared from my face, not because I was upset, because hearing him say it out loud felt different. Zane noticed. What? Nothing. You got quiet. I searched for the right words. Happy. His expression softened. Yeah? Yeah. He nodded. I was hoping you'd say that. We talked for another hour. Nothing dramatic. We talked about what dating might even look like, whether we should keep going to the same gym, whether people would notice, whether he was ready to tell anyone. He admitted he wasn't. I told him that was okay. Then he asked something I hadn't expected. Would you be embarrassed if people knew about us? I looked at him. No. He nodded slowly. I don't think I would be either. That was the moment something shifted. Not because we suddenly became a couple. We didn't. But because Zane stopped talking, like this was something he needed to hide from himself. He started talking about it like it could actually become real. Before he left, he stood by the door. Gym tomorrow? I smiled. Obviously. He laughed. Right. He opened the door, then turned back. Emil? Yeah? Can I take you somewhere after? Where? It's a surprise. I narrowed my eyes. That's suspicious. You'll survive. He smiled and left. The next evening, he picked me up after the gym. Instead of going toward his usual restaurant, he drove out of town. Where are we going? You'll see. You know I hate surprises. I know. Then why are you doing this? Because you trust me. I looked at him. He smiled. Eventually, we pulled into a quiet overlook above the city. The lights stretched out below us. I got out of the car. Okay. Okay, what? This is actually pretty nice. I told you. We leaned against the hood of his car. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Then Zane said, I used to come here when I was stressed. Why? Because nobody bothers you. I nodded. Good choice. He looked at me. That's not why I brought you. I turned toward him. Then why? He took a breath. Because this is where I go when I need to be honest with myself. My heart started pounding. He continued. And I've been thinking about you here a lot. I couldn't stop smiling. Zane. I know. He laughed nervously. I'm terrible at this. You are. He looked at me. But I'm trying. I can tell. He stepped a little closer, then stopped. Can I ask you something? What? Would it be okay if I kissed you? Everything around us seemed to go quiet. I smiled. Yeah. He hesitated for one last second. Then he leaned in. The kiss was brief, almost shy. Nothing like the confident Zane I knew at the gym. When he pulled back, he smiled. I laughed quietly. What? Nothing. You're laughing. Because you're nervous. So are you. Maybe. He smiled again. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced down. His expression changed immediately. I knew before he even spoke. Her again? He nodded. I looked at the screen. A message from his ex. We need to talk. It's important. Zane locked the phone. I don't want this to ruin tonight. It doesn't have to. He looked at me. But I think I need to deal with it. I nodded. Then deal with it. He looked relieved. You're sure? Yeah. He squeezed my shoulder. I'll call you. I watched him drive away. For once, I wasn't worried. I thought we'd finally crossed the hardest part. I thought the uncertainty was behind us. I was wrong. Because the next afternoon at the gym, I saw Zane standing near the entrance with his ex. And the way she was looking at him made me realize this wasn't just a conversation. She knew about me. And judging by the expression on her face, she wasn't happy. For about 5 seconds, I considered turning around and walking straight back out of the gym. It would have been easier. I could have gone home, ignored my phone, and pretended I hadn't seen anything. But Zane saw me. His eyes immediately found mine. And the second he did, his expression changed. His ex noticed. She turned around. We made eye contact. She looked me up and down, then back at Zane. So, that's him? My stomach dropped. Zane stepped forward. Emil, wait. I stopped. His ex folded her arms. I thought you said there wasn't anyone. There wasn't, Zane said. She gave him a look. That's not what this looks like. I felt incredibly awkward standing there. Maybe I should go. No, Zane said immediately. His ex looked at him. Zane. He didn't look away from me. I'm not going to lie to him. Something about that sentence made me stay. Zane turned toward her. I told you I needed time because I wasn't sure what I wanted. You were sure enough to kiss him. My face went hot. Zane looked embarrassed. You followed me? I didn't follow you. Then how did you know? She shook her head. Your sister told me. Zane's jaw tightened. She had no right. I know. She looked at me. I'm not mad at you. I didn't know what to say. She continued. I'm mad because he kept telling me he didn't know what he wanted while apparently figuring it out with someone else. Zane stepped between us slightly. That's not fair. Maybe it isn't. She sighed. But you should have told me. I did. You told me you were confused. I was. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. I believe you. That surprised me. She grabbed her bag. But I'm not waiting around while you figure yourself out. Zane looked down. I understand. She walked past me. Before leaving, she stopped. Emil. I looked at her. Yeah? She gave me a tired smile. He's an idiot. I couldn't help laughing. Yeah. Don't let him make you think this is your fault. Then she walked out. I stood there silently. Zane watched the door close behind her. Then he turned to me. I'm sorry. For what? For you having to see that. I shook my head. She wasn't wrong. He frowned. What? You were confused. I still am. I nodded. I know. He looked frustrated. But I'm not confused about you. I looked at him. Then what are you confused about? He took a breath. Everything else. He sat down on one of the benches. I sat beside him. I don't know what this makes me, he said. You don't have to label it. I know. He rubbed his hands together. But I've spent my entire life assuming one thing about myself. And now you're questioning it. Yeah, I nodded. That's scary. Exactly. He looked at me. But when I'm with you, I don't feel scared. That hit me harder than I expected. I smiled. Then don't rush it. He nodded. For a few minutes, we sat there quietly. Then he laughed. What? You know what's weird? What? I was more nervous telling you I liked you than I was telling my ex that we're done. I smiled. Why? Because losing her would have hurt. He paused. But losing you would hurt more. I didn't know how to respond, so I leaned my shoulder against his. He leaned back. We stayed like that until the gym staff announced they were closing. On the way outside, Zane stopped me. Food? Again? Yeah. You really like feeding me. You eat like a bird. I do not. You absolutely do. We went to a small diner nearby. It became one of those nights that felt completely ordinary. We talked, we laughed. He stole fries from my plate. I stole them back. And somewhere between dessert and the drive home, I realized something. I wasn't worried anymore. Not about his ex. Not about whether he was confused. Not even about whether this would become something serious. I just wanted to see where it went. When he dropped me off, he turned off the engine. Tomorrow? I smiled. Gym? He shook his head. No. I raised an eyebrow. Then what? Come with me somewhere. Where? Meet my sister. I stared at him. You're serious? Yeah. Why? He smiled. Because I want you to meet someone important to me. My heart skipped. Okay. Okay? Yeah. He leaned toward me, then stopped. Can I? I nodded. He kissed me again. This time it lasted longer. Still gentle, still uncertain. But there was something different about it. It didn't feel like an experiment anymore. It felt like the beginning of something. The next afternoon, I met his sister. Her name was Maya. She opened the door, looked at me, then immediately looked at Zane. So this is Emil. Zane groaned. Please don't. She laughed. Relax. I've heard a lot about you. I looked at Zane. A lot? Maya grinned. More than you probably realize. Zane looked mortified. Can we go inside? She stepped aside. Sure. We spent the afternoon at her apartment. Maya was funny, direct, and apparently knew exactly how confused her brother had been. At one point, she pulled me aside while Zane was getting drinks. Can I tell you something? Sure. He hasn't talked about anyone like this before. I smiled. Really? She nodded. He acts like he's terrified. Of me. Of how much he likes you. I glanced toward the kitchen. Zane was standing there with 3 drinks, pretending not to listen. Maya lowered her voice. He's never been good with uncertainty. I nodded. I've noticed. She smiled. Just give him time. I will. When we left later that evening, Zane was unusually quiet. I nudged him. What's wrong? Nothing. You sure? He nodded. Then he looked at me and took my hand. Not secretly, not hesitantly. Just reached over and held it while we walked toward his car. I don't want you to think you're some phase I'm going through. I stopped. He turned toward me. I know I'm still figuring some things out. His thumb brushed over my hand. But whatever happens with me, what I feel when I'm with you is real. I smiled. I believe you. He looked relieved. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His face immediately went pale. What? He showed me the screen. It wasn't his ex. It was a message from someone I didn't recognize. One sentence. You should really ask Zane what happened at the gym last year. I looked at him. What does that mean? Zane didn't answer, and for the first time since we'd started this strange, unexpected thing between us, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. I stared at the message, then at Zane, then back at the screen. Who is that? I don't know. You don't recognize the number? He shook his head. No. I could tell he was lying. Not about knowing the number, about something else. Zane. He looked away. Let's go. What happened at the gym last year? Emil, please. Please what? He rubbed his face. I don't want to talk about it here. We got into his car. He started the engine but didn't move. I waited. Finally, he said, Last year something happened? Obviously. I was working out with a guy named Marcus. I didn't recognize the name. Okay. We were friends. How close? He hesitated. Pretty close. I watched him carefully. Was he your boyfriend? No. Did you like him? Another pause. I don't know. That answer bothered me. Not because I was jealous, because he looked genuinely uncomfortable. What happened? Zane stared through the windshield. Marcus was gay. I waited. He told me he liked me. My stomach tightened. What did you say? I freaked out. He swallowed. I told him I wasn't interested. Okay. But I didn't handle it well. What did you do? I stopped talking to him. I frowned. That's it? No. He sighed. I told some guys at the gym. My expression changed. You told them? I was stupid. Zane. I didn't tell them because I wanted to hurt him. Then why? Because I was scared. He looked at me. I wanted everyone to think it was ridiculous. I didn't say anything. He continued, but they started making jokes. My stomach sank. And? I laughed along. The silence inside the car felt heavy. What happened to Marcus? He left the gym. Did you ever apologize? Eventually? And? He wouldn't talk to me. I looked down. So this person messaging you could be him. Why would he contact me? I don't know. I stared out the window. Maybe he wants me to know what kind of person you used to be. Zane flinched. I know. I immediately felt guilty. I'm not saying you're that person now. But I was. He turned toward me. I was scared of what people would think, so I made someone else pay for it. I nodded slowly. Have you talked to him since? Once? When? About 6 months ago. What happened? He told me he forgave me. I frowned. Then why is he messaging me now? Zane shook his head. I don't know. My phone buzzed. I looked down. Another message. Ask him about the video. My heart stopped. What video? Zane's face went completely pale. He reached for my phone. I handed it to him. He read the message, then closed his eyes. What? There's a video. What kind of video? He didn't answer. Zane. He finally looked at me. Someone filmed me and Marcus at the gym. Doing what? Talking. I waited. That's all? He nodded. We were arguing. About? He told me he was going to tell people he liked me. I frowned. And you were angry? I was terrified. He looked down. I said some things. What things? I don't remember exactly. You don't remember? It was a year ago. He looked at me. But I remember being cruel. I didn't know what to say. The message suddenly made more sense. Someone had a video of him. Maybe Marcus. Maybe someone else. And whoever had it wanted me to know. Can I ask you something? Yeah. Why didn't you tell me this before? He stared at me. Because I was afraid you'd see me differently. I looked at him. I do see you differently. His face fell. But not because you're questioning who you are. I paused. Because you hurt someone. He nodded. I know. But what matters is what you do about it now. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said something I didn't expect. I want to find Marcus. Why? To apologize properly? I nodded. Then do it. He picked up his phone. I don't even know where he is. Then start looking. He smiled faintly. You really don't make things easy. I'm not supposed to. He laughed. For the next 2 days, we didn't see each other. Zane started searching for Marcus. I gave him space. Then, on Tuesday night, he called. Emil? Yeah? I found him. My heart tightened. Where? He's working at another gym across town. And? I talked to him. What did he say? There was a long pause. He said the video isn't from him. I sat up. Then who has it? I don't know. Did he say anything else? He said someone has been asking about me for months. Why? Because apparently there's more to what happened. I felt uneasy. What does that mean? I don't know. Then Zane's voice changed. Emil. Yeah? I think I know who has the video. Who? He took a breath. One of the guys from our old gym. Why would he still have it? I don't know. Did he contact you? No. Then how do you know? Zane went silent. Then, because he just sent it to me. My heart dropped. What does it show? I haven't watched it. Why? Because I'm scared. I didn't know what to say. Then he whispered, I don't want you to see me like that. I closed my eyes. Zane. Yeah? Whatever is in that video, I want the truth. He didn't answer. I could hear his breathing. Finally, he said, Come over. I grabbed my jacket. 20 minutes later, I was standing outside his apartment. He opened the door. His laptop was sitting on the table. The video was paused. Zane looked at me. If you watch this, you might not want me anymore. I stepped inside. Then let me decide. He nodded. We sat down. He pressed play. The footage was shaky. It showed the old gym. Marcus was standing near the lockers. Zane was facing him. I couldn't hear everything clearly at first. Then the audio became louder. Marcus said something. Zane responded. And then I heard Zane say, I'm not gay. Marcus answered, Then why do you keep looking at me? Zane went quiet. The video continued. Marcus stepped closer. You're scared? Zane shook his head. No. Then say it. Zane looked away. I don't know what I want. My chest tightened. The video continued for another minute. Then Marcus said something that made Zane freeze. You don't have to be ashamed of liking a guy. Zane's voice came out quietly. Don't tell anyone. Marcus nodded. I won't. Then the video ended. I looked at Zane. He looked devastated. That's it? He nodded. That's the video. I looked back at the screen. But why would someone send this to you now? Zane didn't answer. His phone buzzed. We both looked down. A new message appeared. Now ask Emil why he thinks you were the only one being watched. Zane stared at the screen. Then he slowly looked at me. And I realized something. This wasn't about Zane anymore. Someone had been watching both of us. And somehow, I was part of this, long before I even knew it. For a few seconds, I couldn't even process the message. Now ask Emil why he thinks you were the only one being watched. I read it again. Then again. Zane. I know. Who the hell is doing this? I don't know. I looked around his apartment. Suddenly, every ordinary detail felt different. The windows, The hallway, the parking lot outside, even the gym we'd been going to 3 times a week. Could someone have been following us? Zane shook his head. I don't know. That's not an answer. I know. He stood up and started pacing. I watched him. You said someone from the old gym had the video? Yeah. And now they're talking about me. Yeah. So maybe someone from your old gym knows who I am. Zane stopped. That's what I'm thinking. How? He looked at me. Because I mentioned you. When? A few months ago. Why? He hesitated. Because I was trying to explain why I wasn't hanging around the old gym anymore. I stared at him. You told them about me? Not like that. Then how? I said I'd started training somewhere else with someone. I folded my arms. And they knew it was me? Apparently. I walked over to the window. I needed air. My head was spinning. Zane came up beside me. I'm sorry. I looked at him. You keep saying that? Because I keep giving you reasons to be. I sighed. I don't want an apology right now. What do you want? The truth? He nodded. Okay. I turned toward him. Everything. He looked nervous. There's one thing I haven't told you. I waited. When I left the old gym, it wasn't only because of Marcus. What else happened? Someone started making comments. What kind? About me. I frowned. Because of Marcus. Yeah. He looked down. They'd say things whenever I walked in. Little jokes. Nothing direct enough to confront someone over, but enough that I knew what they meant. I understood. And you thought they were recording you? I knew they were. My stomach tightened. How? One day, I caught a guy holding his phone toward us. Who? His name was Tyler. I remembered the message. Is Tyler the one who sent you the video? I think so. Why? Because he was there that day. I turned back toward the window. Then maybe he's trying to scare you. Maybe. Or me. Zane didn't respond. That scared me more than anything. We decided not to go to the police yet. There wasn't enough to prove anything. The video wasn't threatening. The messages were anonymous. But Zane contacted the gym manager and asked whether Tyler still trained there. He did. That evening, we went together. I almost didn't want to enter. The place looked exactly the same. Same machines, same mirrors, same loud music, same smell of rubber mats and disinfectant. But I couldn't look at it the same way anymore. Tyler was near the cable machines. Zane spotted him immediately. Stay here. No. Emil, I'm coming with you. He looked at me for a second, then nodded. We walked over. Tyler saw us. His face changed. Zane. Tyler. There was an uncomfortable silence. Then Zane asked, Why are you sending me those messages? Tyler looked confused. What messages? Zane pulled out his phone. Tyler read the screen. His expression changed. I didn't send that. Then who did? I don't know. You're lying. I'm not. Tyler looked at me, then back at Zane. Is this about Marcus? Zane went quiet. Tyler sighed. Look, I was an asshole back then. You're admitting you filmed us? I filmed the argument. Why? Because I thought it was funny. Zane's jaw tightened. Do you still have it? No. Then who does? Tyler shook his head. I gave it to someone. Who? He hesitated. Daniel. Zane frowned. Daniel doesn't even come here anymore. I know. Where is he? I don't know. Tyler looked uncomfortable. Last I heard, he moved. Where? Chicago, maybe. I felt my phone vibrate. I pulled it from my pocket. Unknown number. One new message. You're looking in the wrong place. I showed Zane. His face went pale. Tyler saw it too. Okay, he said quietly. That's not me. Zane looked at him. Then who is it? Tyler shook his head. I don't know. We left the gym. Neither of us spoke until we reached the parking lot. Then Zane stopped. Emil. What? I think we should stop coming here. Why? Because I don't know who's watching. I nodded. That made sense. We got into his car. For a while, we just sat there. Then Zane reached over and took my hand. I never wanted this to happen. I know. I wanted things to be simple. I smiled faintly. So did I. He looked at me. I'm sorry I dragged you into my mess. You didn't. I did. You didn't. He squeezed my hand. Then he said something that caught me off guard. I don't regret meeting you. I looked at him. Even with all this? Especially with all this. He smiled. You've made me realize things about myself I probably would have spent years avoiding. I smiled. That's good. Yeah. He leaned closer. I've been trying to figure out what I am. I waited. And I think I finally understand. What? He looked nervous. I don't need to know what label fits me. I nodded. I just know I want you. My chest tightened. Zane, I'm serious. He squeezed my hand again. I want to take you out. I want to train with you. I want to wake up and know you're part of my life. I smiled. That's a pretty good answer. Yeah? Yeah. He leaned in. This time, I met him halfway. The kiss was gentle, familiar now. When we pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I've been wanting to do that all day. Me too. His phone buzzed. We both froze. He looked down. Another message. But this time, it wasn't text. It was a photo. My stomach dropped. It was a picture of me and Zane sitting in his car, taken from outside, taken just seconds earlier. Underneath it was one sentence. You two really should have listened. Zane immediately locked the doors. I looked around the parking lot. There were cars everywhere, people walking, a bus passing on the street, but no obvious sign of anyone watching. Then I noticed something. Across the street, near a closed coffee shop, someone was standing beneath the awning, a dark hoodie, hands in pockets, watching us. Zane. He followed my gaze. The person turned around and walked away. Zane started the car. Don't move. He pulled out of the parking lot, but instead of following the person, he drove in the opposite direction. What are you doing? We're going somewhere safe. Where? He looked at me. Your place. I nodded. We drove in silence, and as the city lights passed outside the window, I realized something that scared me more than the messages. Whatever had started as Zane questioning his feelings for me had turned into something neither of us understood. And now someone else knew exactly how much we meant to each other. The only question was why. We didn't say much on the drive to my apartment. I kept looking in the side mirror, expecting to see the same car behind us. Nothing. Zane checked twice. Still nothing. When we reached my building, he parked underground and waited until I unlocked the lobby door. We went upstairs together. The second I closed my apartment door, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Zane stood in the middle of the living room. So, he gave me a tired smile. Well, this got complicated. I laughed. Just a little. We sat on the couch. For the first time all night, neither of us had our phones in our hands. I looked at him. Are you scared? He thought about it. Yeah, me too. But I'm glad I'm here. I smiled. Me too. We sat quietly. Then my phone buzzed. Both of us looked at it. Unknown number. My heart jumped. I picked it up. One message. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have scared you. I stared at the screen. Then another message arrived. I wanted Zane to finally tell you the truth. I looked at him. Who is it? I don't know. A third message appeared. This is Marcus. Zane went completely still. I read the next message aloud. I wasn't trying to hurt either of you. I just wanted him to stop hiding from himself. Zane grabbed his phone and called the number. It went straight to voicemail. A minute later, another message appeared. I'm not coming back to the gym. Don't worry, the video is deleted. Then, take care of each other. Nothing else came. Zane sat back, his shoulders finally relaxed. That's it? I think so. He looked at me. I owe him an apology? Probably. He smiled. You're really not letting me off easy, are you? Nope. He laughed. Then his expression became serious. Emil. Yeah? I need you to know something. I waited. I've spent months thinking about whether I'm straight, bi, gay, or something else. He paused. And I don't have a perfect answer. I nodded. But I do know that when I saw you at the gym, I wanted you there. He took my hand. When you weren't there, I missed you. His thumb moved slowly across my knuckles. When someone else made you laugh, I got jealous. I smiled. And when you kissed me, he laughed softly. I knew I was in trouble. I laughed too. He looked at me. So maybe I don't need a perfect label right now. You don't? I just need to be honest. Exactly. He nodded. I want to be honest with you. I squeezed his hand. Then be honest. He smiled. I want this. I knew what he meant. Us. Whatever us became. I leaned closer. So do I. He kissed me. There was no nervous hesitation this time. No second guessing. No wondering whether either of us had misunderstood the other. Just Zane and me, finally letting ourselves enjoy something we'd both spent weeks being afraid to name. Afterward, we stayed on the couch talking until nearly 2 a.m. We talked about Marcus, about the old gym, about Zane's ex, about how ridiculous our first few months had been. And eventually, we talked about what came next. We decided we'd find a new gym. Somewhere neither of us had history. Somewhere we could start fresh. A week later we did. Our new gym was smaller and quieter. The equipment wasn't as nice, but neither of us cared. On our first day there, Zane stood beside the bench while I got ready to lift. He smiled. Ready? Yeah. He positioned himself behind me. Go. I started the set. 1, 2, 3. I finished and racked the bar. When I sat up, Zane was smiling. What? Nothing. You're doing it again. Doing what? Looking at me. He laughed. Maybe I like looking at you. I shook my head. You're impossible. He leaned closer. Maybe. Then he quietly added, but I'm your impossible. I laughed. That was terrible. I know. We left the gym together. This time, there was no awkwardness, no secrets, no pretending. Just 2 guys walking toward the parking lot, arguing about where to eat. And strangely enough, that ordinary moment felt like the best part of the whole thing. Looking back, I think the biggest change wasn't Zane acting differently around me. It was that he finally stopped acting differently around himself. He'd spent so long trying to fit himself into an answer that he forgot he was allowed to be confused. And I learned something too. Sometimes you don't need to know exactly where a relationship is going before you take the first step. Sometimes you just need someone who is willing to be honest. Zane never became some completely different person overnight. He was still the guy who teased me about skipping leg day, still stole food off my plate, still arrived 5 minutes early and complained when I was late, still pretended not to care when I beat him at something, But now, when he looked at me across the gym, I didn't have to wonder what it meant. I knew, and neither of us looked away. Because somewhere between the weights, the awkward conversations, the secrets, and all those moments when I thought I was imagining things, my gym partner became something I never expected, my boyfriend. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing.